Everybody, what's going on, and welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. So I've got some Duff McKagan news for you guys. So Kevin actually went to Duff's April 4th appearance at the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles, where he did a bit of a show, and he talked about some of the old, Guns N' Roses stories, and he did reveal something that I found kind of surprising. So you guys know how Guns N' Roses cover probably 30 songs in their set list every night. I'm only joking. They cover like 9 songs out of like 30 or so. And Duff revealed that Black Hole's son Axl wanted to cover even before Chris Cornell passed away. And he said it was a strange circumstance that Axl brought it up, and then later that day they discovered that Chris Cornell had passed away. So that was a story I'd never heard before. But Duff also talked a lot about politics, and his upcoming record, which comes out next month, is going to be pretty politically influenced. So I would ask anybody, please keep your political comments out of this, whether it's left versus right. I don't try to take either side because I think there's always two things my parents taught me. You can never win on religion and politics. I'm just reporting whatever he said. So here's what he had to say at the Grammy Museum appearance on April 4th. And these are just a few of his excerpts that were transcribed by Blabbermouth. So he talked a bit about his lyrical role models. He said, I think the biggest thing that's affected me lyric writing wise is reading Cormac McCarthy and Ernest Hemingway. Just the scarcity of words and picking the right word. I read lines of Cormac's, you read just a sentence, and I started crying. The subject and economy of the words he used and how he used them. Writing my first book, I would try to aspire to that benchmark. Like, can I get one sentence like Cormac? Just effing one. I really tried to write up to the standard of the authors I read. Writing for lyrics for this record especially, I used a lot of we because the songs were about us, not me. I really wanted every word to be exactly the right word. Don't rhyme fire with desire. Do not effing do it. Don't do it. How punk rock of Duff to say that. On whether an artist has a responsibility to address the ills of society, here's what Duff had to say. He said there's a fine line in rock and roll. In Guns N' Roses, if you didn't listen to the words in Paradise City, it says Captain America's got a broken heart. Shit's been happening for a long time, and we were a band of basically young kids like F the Man, and it's still kind of like that. My opinion is it's not like that anymore, Duff. I don't want to be another voice out there, a political voice going, you should think this way, F me, I'm just another moron. But I do have morals and experience in getting sober and being really effed up and seeing friends of mine die, a lot of them, and it's been such a ride. If it ended tomorrow, I'd be sliding into my grave sideways going, what an effing ride. I never want to be another political voice. We've got enough of that shit, man. So on the Tenderness track, Falling Down, the lyrics which tackle opioid use, he said the following. I read a book by J.D. Vance called Hillbilly Elegy, and as a guy who's been there, being in addiction and alcoholism, I could really relate. I don't look at people who are strung out as them. It's a we. I had written a song in 2008 for Loaded's album Wasted Heart about a very personal issue with myself. Fortunately for me, I have a wife who stood by me and pulled me out. I said, you should have gone long ago because I'm just going to F up. I knew I was going to F this up somehow. It was about drugs and coming into my life. Wasted Heart is the personal side of it. Like, I know what I'm about to do, and Falling Down is the writer's view of the problem. I named a particular part of the country, West Virginia, but I could have named Tacoma, Washington. I could have named Seattle. I could have named Riverside or Hollywood. He also talked about a song called Parkland, which, just judging by the title, you know it's about school shootings. And Duff said, I was down in my basement and this engineer guy came over and he came down the stairs and he goes, oh shit, have you heard about Parkland? It happened again. I have a TV down in my basement that's never been turned on, and we turned on the news. And at that time, I had a junior in high school. We sat there numb, just watching. We've seen this happen so many times, and I started playing this B flat chord and this D chord, and it was like a funeral dirge. I go on to name Columbine and Sandy Hook and Virginia Tech and Charleston Church without saying much more than that. Do we have to make another mother cry, he said? Do we have to see another school kid die? If that's political, you can F off. It's paying honor to these kids, and we have a daughter who's 18, and all her friends are like those Parkland kids. Like, so together and so aware of what's going on politically and aware as they're the next voters. They're being really active, and I'm watching these kids, and I'm going, okay, got to do something because what did you do when this was going down, he asked himself. So his album is due May 31st. Tenderness will see McKagan reflecting on his own experiences traveling the globe over 2.5 years on Guns N' Roses' Not in This Lifetime tour, encountering heartbreak, anger, fear, confusion, and divide on his travels during the tumultuous time in our world's history, McKagan said in a press release. So McKagan channeled a collective hurt into songs of monolithic power. And McKagan worked with producer Shooter Jennings, who also auditioned for Velvet Revolver back in 2002. So also joining McKagan at the April 4th appearance was his producer Shooter Jennings, whose band he's actually going to be touring with. So he also Shooter Jennings discussed the album with Scott Goldman during an appearance at the Grammy Museum in LA. And these are some excerpts from the interview that Blabbermouth transcribed. So Shooter and Duff talked about how they met in the early 2000s. Duff said Shooter, as far as I knew, had really just come out of Tennessee. He had a rock band, and this is a time when there wasn't a lot of rock and roll bands going down. And there was a few bands out there kind of saving rock and roll. If you're me and my band Loaded played punk rock and roll, and Stargun, his band, he came out there played a show with us. I saw him play some like house party, and I could just tell by this kid, I didn't know the Waylon Jennings connection. He was just a kid who I saw with a look in his eyes and a band playing rock and roll, and he was like a truth teller, and you could recognize those few people out there who were doing the real thing, and I knew that about Shooter from the start. Now, Shooter said, I was an MTV kid and I didn't like Nashville. At that time, there was a couple of cool rock and roll bands that were stirring around like Screamin' Cheetah Wheelies and Jason and the Scorchers. It was cool, but that's not where I wanted to be. To me, if you wanted to play real music, you had to go to LA or New York, and that's where all my favorite bands were from. LA and certainly Guns N' Roses. I studied those records, especially the Use Your Illusion records. I thought they were brilliant, and they were the two first records I bought on CD. I remember the first time I saw Welcome to the Jungle video and Axl getting off the bus, and I'm like, that's where I want to be. So that does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And are you guys going to be picking up Duff McKagan's new record? I'll probably review it on the channel with Jeff and then give you guys our thoughts. I think we did that with Dizzy's album and some of the others. I think we did it with Slash's solo album that came out too. Or I shouldn't say solo album. I should say his band with the Conspirators and Miles Kennedy. So thanks for watching, guys, and have a good one.